Hello, good
Hello.
afternoon. Welcome to Greenlight podcast, episode number 8. We have a recurring guest, our friend, Presidential Candidate Daryl Constantine. Daryl has an announcement to make.
Yes, I just found out that Ava's producer, Guillermo, is having his birthday today. So happy birthday, Guillermo. So everybody watching, happy birthday, Guillermo. Should we sing happy birthday, Guillermo?
I think we would embarrass him, but I think the announcement is more than enough.
Announcements more than, okay, well, Guillermo, if you're listening, you do a great job. Have a great birthday. Don't drink too much. You don't want to wake up with a headache, but appreciate everything you do over there.
Thank you so much. You're so kind. Actually, he's in the office next to the studio, so I'm pretty sure he's watching. So Daryl, this is the third time that you come to my show. I'm very grateful that you always make space in your very busy agenda and you schedule some time with us. So I invited you today because in past sessions we have been talking about your presidential proposals, but this time I would like to get to know you more, as a person, the candidate, because people will start asking, what do you do in your free time? Apart from, we know that you are a soccer.
We got that covered.
And we got that covered, but I'm sure that you're a very multi-skilled person that does a lot of things that your audience would like to know about. I would like to start by asking you about the other interviews that you have been attending during the time that Greenlight podcast has been put on hold because we have been doing other jobs. Can you tell me more about how did it go, the other podcasts, other interviews? Share your experiences with us.
Yeah, well, it's been going great. And my strategy is really just to talk to kind of normal people that don't necessarily have a big stake politically one way or another. Everything's been going really good, having a really good conversation. Ironically, we had really just one that didn't go well. And it was this is a trust your instincts, because this was the one that when I saw the invite, I didn't want to do it. I remember because it was this kind of Bill O'Reilly type, and I immediately saw that this guy was going to be drama. And I told my girlfriend, I said, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go. This is exactly the kind of thing I don't want to go on. And, and we kind of talked about it because he's that type where I don't know, there's a certain boomer age conservative, and they kind of think that they know everything. And they're actually, ironically, the ones that have the most resistance to new ideas, which is kind of interesting. But you can go on those shows and you can kind of embarrass them on their shows. But the issue is that because this type is very sort of insecure, they'll kind of harbor it and they'll have some big vendetta, and it just ends up being a drama thing. But I ended up last week, I did a bunch of shows and I was waiting for them to air. They wrote me again and they were like very nice, very polite. So I said, okay, I'll go on. And it was sure enough, it was exactly kind of what I was expected. It was attempt to kind of ambush me with his very specific hard topics about immigration and that kind of low-key racist immigration vibe, and then doesn't really want to get into it on the cultural front. So I just kind of checked out of it early. This is the kind of group, ironically, you would think as a Republican, you would think as a conservative, these would be the types that we'd be wanting to talk to. But this is there's this kind of stale aspect in the Republican Party, and we don't want anything to do with that. They'll kind of come around at the end. This is kind of, as I said, betas and gammas. A gamma is someone that will eventually kind of come along, but they're going to be resenting you the whole time. So we're going to take the conversation in a new direction, talk to people like you, and just have positive conversation. So on that one, I just kind of clicked out of it early and just hopped out. We'll see if we want any more drama with that, but for now, we won't name any names, but we'll see what comes from that. And I'll look forward, hopefully, to just seeing a kind of unedited copy of what happened there. But other than that, yeah, Great
Was
conversations. Having a
was this
blast.
person, sorry that I interrupt you, was this person a panelist in the podcast, or was he part of the audience?
Well, yeah, this is like a wannabe guy. He's got like a little show, but he gets something like 7 to 10 people that view it, and he's very puffed up about himself, former detective. So immediately know that this guy is going to be drama. And
But
it
he
was
wasn't the host. I mean, it was someone that
no,
joined the live session.
no. This was the host. This was the host of the program, and he
Oh,
turned
I'm
out
sorry.
he turned out to be kind of exactly what I was expecting, and it was kind of the thing where I just don't want to deal with the drama, and it's not worth it for this kind of 7 to 10 views that I would get from this guy, and it's the approach, and it was the very nice, oh, we'd love to have you on. What would you like to talk about? And then immediately he wants to kind of puff himself up and flex. And the whole thing that he talks about is we need to get new voices. So here comes a new voice, and he tries to flex on me. And it doesn't look very good for him, but I let him off easy. If I want to continue with it, maybe I'll challenge him to like a 3-hour unmoderated debate live, not something I'm going to have on his program for him to edit and cut up and kind of do his silliness with. But this is, as I said, this is actually, there is a lot of negative baggage associated with Republicans, and this is really that group that's associated with it. It's this toxic, boomer aged, usually white older man that has this kind of rigid set of views, and they like to sit back a lot and complain about the country and complain about issues, but they don't actually want to address the real things. When it comes down to culture and bringing back spirituality, they don't want these things, because this generation essentially wanted to keep everything, but they wanted to try it without God. So they're sort of the ones that are kind of responsible for the entire situation that we're in. And now they're huddling on to this little Fox News type thing. And ironically, as I said, talking to a lot of people, Democrats, people from all sides of the aisle, and we have great conversations. And then here, this is the one traditional conservative type, and this is exactly the one I go, this is going to be drama. And it turned out, I said, okay, go into this positive, don't attach any negativity. And to a T, it turned out to be absolutely everything that I told my girlfriend I expected it to be. So we've been joking about the gamma male for a week or so. And as I said, we'll see what comes. I won't name any names. I don't know if I have to call my ex-girlfriends and let them know some creepy guy might be looking around for stuff. We'll see what happens. But for now, we'll leave it unnamed, and we'll revisit it later if we have to.
So,
but thank you for asking me.
So was your girlfriend watching the whole thing, and I assume she started to feel like
uncomfortable? No, I talked to her about things, and I mean, we have really good communication. So I always let her know. And this was the one thing, usually I do any show, any opportunity, I want to go on and talk. And this was the way that it came in, I said, this is going to be drama, because the guy is he's clearly this insecure type, wants to puff himself up. And I know this type. And I bring terms up like gata and beta and stuff like this. I don't really like these terms. Usually this is associated with like dating and pickup stuff, which is really cringy. I always tell people, if you want something, go get it. There's no games and weird stuff about it. But it is actually important in terms of team building, that to know what a gamma male is and to be able to identify, because that's the one thing that you don't want. You don't want that. Two alphas, as long as they're not going like against each other, like trying to dunk in a different basket, can come together, work together fine, because there's not that insecurity. Betas work together, everybody can work together in a team. Gammas have this sort of hidden resentment towards alphas. So usually they don't actually have the courage to just confront them. So they'll either kind of put up a face, but behind the scenes, they're always going to be rooting against you. And this is why sports, we're going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but it's really important for me that guys have some interest in sports. It's not the end of the world if you don't, but usually it can be associated with this kind of stuff. If you, maybe I should put it this way, it's okay if you don't play sports, but if you're the type that you like really hate sports and you really resent sports, that's the type where it's like, okay, because this is my campaign. This is about fun. This is about positive energy. This is about making things right and improving things. And it's a positive conversation. It's a fun conversation. These types, and I think probably for women too, I would imagine probably want to avoid that type as well. So gamma males, know how to spot them. It's this sort of big puffed up thing, but you can kind of sense that there's that insecurity beneath it. Just stay away from that energy. So it's nice to be on here with you, get that gamma energy just out, get something new in here. So this will be nice. We'll have a nice, fun discussion. And I have no idea what questions you're going to ask me. So this is not, ask me what my favorite color is. We'll see. I just ask, keep it, politically appropriate, which I'm sure you would. You're a very classy lady.
Thank
But
you.
be gentle. So, and that's it. So now I'm going to sit back and do my best to answer whatever questions you have.
Thing is, I want to just add a note here. I have a disclaimer on my page and in my YouTube channel that reads that the views of the hosts should not interfere with those of the guests. I mean, we should be like a neutral ground in which all of you, either creative workers, politicians, representatives of certain groups, come to a show because you want some space on air to express your opinions. So
what you're saying is you don't necessarily, just because I don't like gamma males, doesn't mean that you don't like gamma males. Is that what you're saying?
I cannot criticize you online for that. So this person, whoever is not, in my personal opinion, is not running a show from that point of view. So he is not being professional because, I can receive you and then someone from the opposite party tomorrow, and then I'm going to give them the same attention because all of you are my guests. And although I may share some opinions I may not, I'm just happy that you're here sharing some on-air time, making my show grow. So I cannot invite someone to start bashing them. I cannot conceive or imagine doing that to any of my guests. I always try to highlight the positive of the work they do, and I want them to have a good time, so they return. So this is the third time that you come back with us.
So I have a great time. Yeah. I have a great time. So you're doing a great job with that. And I really like that. I really like that vibe. It was funny because the way they reached out to me very much, we'd love to have you on, and then immediately rude introduction and then kind of snappy attitude. And again, what I expected, but I just kind of, okay, I don't have, this is a boring conversation. Let's go talk to Ava. So here we are.
So okay. You ended you signed off the program before it ended?
Yeah, I kind of talked to him for like 5 minutes. I heard the two things that he wanted to say about immigration and law enforcement. And then I got better things to do. I ate a sandwich or something. I forget exactly, but yeah.
What a shame. So any other shows that you have attended, besides that experience?
Well, today I was on the Kimberly Cloud podcast, and that was lovely. And this happened really short notice. We were texting, and there were like there's always technical problems with me, and we'll get used to it. So far, so good tonight. But we hopped on. We had a really good conversation, and then we're gonna have another one tomorrow. I'm gonna do as many with her. I've got other ones. I've got like 3 that were really good, and I'm really wanted to show them. They're not out yet, so that was why actually my first instinct was just stay away from this thing. But it was kind of a slower week, and I said, it must be fate. And this is where, for me, faith is really nice because I don't stress things too much. I pray, I think about what I think is right, and I try and do it. And at the end of the day, what comes from it comes from it. So whatever steps are in front of me, they sort of are what they are. And even the odd sort of things like that, I think that there's probably something positive that comes from that too. And maybe it wasn't my best moment or his best moment, but I think my supporters will see that I don't really put up with that kind of nonsense. So I think maybe that's positive.
I think, in the great scheme of things, I mean, I'm going to give you a lateral thought, which is thinking outside the box. Sometimes opposition, controversy sells. I remember that when I published my first book, and I remember that all my friends were like, oh, very happy because I was becoming a self-published author, and all of them were, giving me positive feedback. This was a book that I made, and I created characters from my two RoboCop heroes, which are Nancy Allen and Ed Meyer, which I thank them so much for everything they have been teaching me over the years. And then a friend said to me, which was, I mean, he wasn't going to do it, but he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stand outside your house, with a sign like, take down this book because this book is so wrong on so many levels. And then you
Wow.
take pictures of me. And he said, because I'm going to create fake controversy for everyone to say, oh, okay, why is this book wrong? And then they download it. Of course, that was a joke. He wouldn't do something like that. Plus, he's a very busy person. He's a mechanical engineer. He's always working at this big factory where he works. But he was telling me something that, even if it sounded funny, he said, sometimes, he said, joking aside, you will find opposition, you will find criticism, and you should be ready for it. He said, right now you're here in the circle of friends, and all of us are happy for whatever thing that you are releasing to the public. But if you, in some way, start getting like opposition or controversy, or people, not liking what you do, sometimes that gives you publicity, not in the way you want, but that gives you exposure. And some other people say, well, okay, is this really so wrong? And then they moved out of curiosity. They get to know more the author of the, or the personality in that case that was giving the conference, or was publishing a book, or I don't know, selling a painting. Not sure if I'm being clear enough.
Definitely. Well, and certainly, look, I'm looking forward really to the conflict aspect of it. That to me is going to be fun. This is early on in the phase to be wasting my time with somebody that is really just not up to anything worth my time. For him, maybe it'll sell. So maybe now, because of this, maybe instead of 7 views, he might get like 14 views on the video. But for me, where I didn't want to engage with him too much was that the approach was dishonest. So it was an approach of, twice reaching out to me, hey, we'd love to have you on. This would be really, let's have a nice conversation. And then it's immediately he wants to puff up and act tough with me. So just tell me that, write out to me and say, hey, I have some different ideas. Let's have a spirited discussion about it, mano a mano. And that's great. And I'm going to respect that. Again, that's a respectful exchange between two alphas. But this sort of gamma approach, and then the fact that the show is edited, it doesn't come out live. So I'm not going to unload on this guy, humiliate him, and then watch him just dice it up and do a salvage job. So I gave him the air. I said, you tell me what bothers you about the cities. You tell me. I told him that I would enforce the laws on the borders. He wanted to get into it more than that. I think that's a tired conversation. I think that rhetoric is divisive, and I don't think that really kind of moves us forward. I think that it's a sidetrack. And then ironically, where he has issues with me is wanting to be more Christian. So this is actually, to me, everything that's wrong with the conservative party. And there are people in the Republican Party that will be running for president that actually will represent those views. And I will look forward to having that conversation with them, not somebody on air pretending that he's trying to stimulate a dialogue, but then trying to bring someone in and puff himself off on it. So if it escalates, as I said, maybe he's going to go and find out if I have any unpaid parking tickets or something like that, or bother my exes, as I said. If it escalates, we can maybe have a bigger discussion, a proper discussion, but it won't be under his supervision. It'll be somewhere neutral. It'll be somewhere live and probably unmoderated.
So the show will come out, or you're not sure?
Don't know. And as I said, not gonna name it right now. Just an interesting experience, and I think an interesting lesson about some of the aspects of what's going on the Republican side. As I said, this stale, cringy, older white male boomer kind of thing, the complaining thing, but not really wanting to do anything. We're going to just kind of ignore that. Most of these types, and we do intend to win the primaries, we do expect them to come around and support us. These things, by the way, they do change a lot. A lot of Mitt Romney people became Donald Trump people, and these things do change. Some people, like I said, the issue with gammas, they bear a grudge. They will hold on to something. So some of them will be going on for years, probably, about certain things about this or that was said. But we're going to kind of sidestep that demographic for now. We're going to focus on normal people, positive people, people that are more open-minded, because the problem in the American system, and I said we weren't going to get political tonight, but here we go. The problem is that both
you're
sides.
A politician.
I am. So
It's
this is go get a little politics in, and then it'll be smooth. Then we'll chat our way out, have a nice. But both sides have these very rigid, specific sets of things, and everybody says the same thing. We're going to bring the country together, but they're not going to do that, because it's just two sides that that aren't hearing each other. And the only way that you really get out of that is you step out of that and you look at the whole thing differently, and you say, okay, let's forget about what Republicans are. Let's just look at what people need, and let's arrange a platform that way. What people need in their lives: they need God, they need families, they need jobs, they need healthcare, and they need support. So these are the things that we're going to give people. We're going to give people living wages. We're going to restore the culture, and we're going to put that moral foundation back in place. And when you put these things together, we take things from both sides, and it's a totally new thing. So there's a certain percentage, not going to be everybody. And what does happen, and this is so conversationally, because I will give myself a little bit of credit. I am a people person. I tend to get along very well with people. As I said, just a small demographic, perhaps that I don't, but in just normal conversation, 9 out of 10 people will agree with what I'm offering. 9 out of 10. Now, when we get into the electoral process, there's a lot of political machinery that gets involved, and there's a lot of media and propaganda. So obviously, that doesn't hold up because it just gets entrenched into the different levels. But we are going to have a majority. This is a new majority coalition, and this is going to be the makings of a pretty powerful general election coalition. So I feel quite strongly about that. So I would say to Republicans that are maybe worried about this, worried about some of the things that I'm saying, some of this direction. Look, you might be in a position to win maybe 2022, maybe 2024, but there are long-term trends that are not working in your favor. And this is not only the right thing to do, but pragmatically, it's also going to set the party forward on a new trajectory to continue being positive and winning elections, not just in the next 2 cycles, because the Democrats kind of did wet the bed. I think most people can kind of see that. So they're going to have a rough midterm election, and they won't be well positioned for 2024. But after that, it's not going to just be Republican magic land. Everybody's happy. We have to make something new. We have to use this opportunity that we have right now. Instead of looking to preserve something, we have to recognize that a lot of things have already collapsed, and now is the time actually to build something new. So that's what we're doing, and that's what my campaign's about. Okay.
So wow, you have like this very politician vibe, because you.
Is that a bad thing?
No. I mean, and I was telling this to a friend that watches your interviews. You may want to send hello to Nico Kosturakis. He's Nico, like Nicholas Kosturakis.
Hello, Nico. Nico's a very cool name. I had a very good friend named Nico. So I already like this gentleman, and he watches my stuff. So Nico,
He's the one that has been sharing it to Chihuahua S, which is a page that is viewed by, you know, the whole state. And
wow.
he was the one that was asking Will, like, oh, wow. So there's a presidential candidate that Eva has been interviewing. So he's much into politics. And of course, he speaks English. And his family is from Greek descent. So
He's from Greek.
he's a businessman. So he's one of your fans here.
Wow. My family is part Greek as well. That's the Nico that I knew was Greek. So that makes sense.
Ah.
I got to meet this guy. I should come down to Mexico, meet him.
Yeah, I hope he's watching, and if he's not, he's gonna watch the replay. I'm sure of it. And well, I will tell him in what minute we talk about him. So you
well,
never know.
don't tell him. Don't tell him that way. He's got to watch the whole thing. If you tell him,
he watches it anyway. So okay, so let's leave it as a surprise. So when he's watching, like, oh, so they were talking about me.
Exactly.
So sometimes you don't know who you are inspiring or from where. We have a saying in my country that goes, nobody is a prophet in their own land, which means sometimes you find support or friends or opportunities outside your place of origin. Has happened to me many times with jobs that I have had. So this is a fantastic thing about this era in which there are no frontiers. I mean, we just need a connection, an internet connection, and we can connect with other people that are, you know, far away from us. Just imagine what was in past years, you know, long distance relationship.
Yeah.
For example, you know, sending letters, waiting months to hear from the other person. And now it's like just an email or a text message or, you know, a live face-to-face conversation. My team is telling me that we're running out of time for part 1. So I would like to invite you to come for a second part in which we can talk more about, I want to talk to you about this other podcast you went to, in which you were talking more about sports than politics. And
okay.
This episode is more about getting to know you, because we already know your proposals. I mean, you have made them extremely clear in past interviews.
I think so.
So do you have time to come back for a second, the second part of the interview?
Well, yeah, I think I could squeeze in another 30 minutes or so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seems fantastic. So while you already have your drink, I'm gonna have some water perhaps, and then we come back in 3 minutes. Thank you for watching. I remind you, Greenlight Podcast, episode number 8, Daryl Constantine, getting to know the presidential candidate running for in the race for the White House 2024. We're getting to know him, and we will come back after this short break. Welcome back. Greenlight Podcast, episode number 8, part 2 of this interview with Daryl Constantine. We are back to have Daryl again for, let's hope, 20-30 minutes more. And we're very interested in getting to know him as a presidential candidate. Daryl has come to my show previously, and he has spoken about his political views, but now this show was especially booked for us to get to know him more about Daryl, the person, outside his political career. So Daryl, thank you for joining again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. That first 30 minutes went by like nothing. That was like very fast. I guess because I was talking, it just went right by, but here we are.
But we have this second part of the show, and you can always come back. So I don't think it went in nothing. I think we were talking about Well, what the politics, talking ironically, the politics of podcasts are, and I was letting you know that in my personal opinion, I run a show, and I have different type of guests, and I always have to remain neutral about the things I come to and say in my show, as long as they're polite and uh,
Hmm.
understanding about, not, for example, we cannot bash someone directly by saying their name, or start flaming wars, or whatever, but we can talk about, the topic you were talking to me about this person not running a podcast show properly. But
Very rude. Yeah, very rude person.
I'm sorry you went through that. But you went to another show, and it was hosted by Marcus Hart and August V. So it was
Yeah.
Daryl Constantine on Tom Brady, Divorce and Manhood. That was a
Yeah.
fun show. Can you tell us more about it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a long topic, but a lot of people don't know this, but Tom Brady basically, Giselle, his wife, openly practices witchcraft, and he sort of handed control of his life over to her over the past 10 years. And now it's
Are
starting to
you
kind of catch
serious?
up to
I
him.
didn't know.
Yeah, it's a sad story. I mean, I have kind of some inside knowledge. I have some friends related to the team and stuff like that. So I've known about this for a while. I grew up in the area, so that's kind of like it's my team. For me, it's like for you, you know a lot about RoboCop. Like I know a lot about the Patriots. So I'm like a Patriots historian. So when this thing came out and it was
I'm
like
sorry
Tom
that I
Brady got
interrupt
pushed
you.
away.
So
Uh-huh.
you're a fan of American football and soccer football.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
like American football is great too. It's a lot of fun too. I'm built for European international football. Okay. But if we're playing flag football, no one's going to catch me. I will run and catch touchdowns all day. But yeah, it's a great sport. It's totally different. It's a classic American thing. We take a sport where 98% of it is involves your hand, and for some reason we call it football, and make the sport that's the biggest sport in the world have some weird name, soccer. I don't call it soccer. I call it football. I just call them both football. And if I differentiate, American football. But yeah, American football is a great sport too. I like all sports. The only sport really, and I've even played it in the past, but the one that I enjoy playing the least is baseball, just because I don't get to move around enough. So I like to just be moving and running around. So soccer, basketball, football, yeah, yeah, all sports, even hockey. I was thinking about bringing Mexico, Canada, and the United States closer together because check this out. I get more soccer, right? Because Mexico, you guys love football, and then I like
we
hockey.
do.
We get Canada involved, so then I've got more hockey too. So I was thinking about it, and kind of bringing the three countries together. And I hear some things up in Canada, and I don't know if it's just kind of boomer tough stuff that they're complaining about by watching too much Fox News, but some of the stuff is like it's kind of crazy. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm going to invade Canada, but I might pressure them. We'll start that way, but maybe the three countries kind of come together a little bit more. Might be something to think about. I haven't put any bold policies in
Interesting.
place yet, but yeah, this is how my brain works. I start thinking, bring in some football, bring in some hockey, maybe get the Canadian government operating a little bit better. Maybe everybody kind of work together under a big Christian tent. Could be an improvement for relations between all three countries. What do you think about that?
Well, as a Mexican, I know a lot about soccer, and we don't call him soccer here. We call him football.
Football.
Just
Yeah, we can call it football. We'll just call it football from here on forward.
and well, American football, we call them American football, so we can know the difference here in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
well, when you're born in Mexico, you get to know about football even if you don't want to. So you get to play it even if you are unaware of it, because it's like almost like the official sport in Mexico. I think that our sports people need more support, because for
Mm-hmm.
example, there was this gymnast Mexican girl that she had to work to buy her own equipment to go to the Olympics, which was shameful for the national organization of sports here in Mexico. So yeah, I think that any kind of sport, you know what they say, healthy mind in a healthy body. I think
Mm-hmm.
it helps you to release stress. It helps you to release negative thoughts. Um, I'm not, as I said, I'm not a big fan of football, but I have to know about it because, you know, Mexico is too involved. And, you know,
Mm-hmm.
championships, well, we're all sitting down hoping that our
Mm-hmm.
team wins. So, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think that if you focus on sports, I mean, that's what young people need nowadays. So tell me more about these podcasts that you went to, because the guys are fun. I was watching it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's Marcus. He does a great podcast, and they talk about a lot of things. And turns out that they have a program that has a Christian theme on it. So that was a really good one. You know, and like I kind of when I'm with the guys, we talk about different stuff. What do guys talk about? We talk about sports. We talk about women. So it was kind of the perfect place to have that conversation. But yeah, he's a good dude. He's a good dude, and he's someone like you that I'm hoping to continue working with, because the way that I operate, the people that I work with early, I always tell people, until my phone fills up, you're in my phone. So if I'm in the White House, same phone, same, maybe not the same phone, but same phone book. So everybody that's in my phone, you're in my phone. The people that work with me now, these are the people that you want to work with. You want to work with people that want to work with you because it's fun and it's collaborative, not because, oh, all of a sudden, let's go hump this guy's leg because he's big and famous now. So the people, there's a certain amount where they don't get it, they don't key in on it early, but the people that key in on it early, that's great because we get to be a part of this, little community. So those were both great guys. That was my first time speaking with Augustus, and I found out I was going to be on with him just like a minute or two before then, and second time with Marcus. But those are really great guys, insightful. They're keyed in on the issues, and I think it's a great conversation because it shows kind of what's there when we come together and we work together on really the things that matter. And I have said this, that the focal point of my campaign is to speak to young men and raising up young men, because we have a responsibility actually to do things. And it's nice to have the support from women, and women are a very big demographic. So we have to, we of course need their support electorally, but it's really about challenging young men, because that's really what brings the society up. We've been lacking in terms of taking care of women, protecting the children. And those two
Respecting
guys.
women. Let's start from there. Respecting. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes we don't even want protection. We just want respect, with the things we do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, yeah, okay. Respect, sure. Respect, protection, care, all of those things. All of it, people working together from both sides. So, yeah, those are good guys, and they were right on board with that conversation. And this is a news story where I've been sitting on it for quite some time, and I would have let it pass. But the thing about it that is not okay is that the coach who formed the team, he has been treated to some very nasty press, excuse me. And this sort of apparatus that's formed around Tom Brady, you see him on his social media. It's kind of embarrassing. I mean, he's like a 12-year-old girl. He's just looking for attention. And all of that, that's okay. I'm not going to comment on it. But when you start putting out false narratives and ruining people's careers, getting people fired, getting Brian Flores fired, getting Bruce Arians fired. I don't particularly like Bruce Arians, but nevertheless, in this conversation, this media game by him is like tearing the league apart, and it's sort of covering up for him. I would be okay with that.
Tell me about the witchcrafting thing, because that's the thing that I'm obsessing right now about. So who was doing witchcrafting?
Well, it's his wife. And this is not, by the way, this is not like theory. This is not conjecture. This is documented on multiple interviews. You can see her on talk shows talking about it. She refers to herself as a good witch. Tom Brady in interviews has said that she has him, she prepares altars for him before games. She has him wear special gemstones, and she tells him messages from the spirits about when you're going to be winning games and winning seasons. And this was something I wouldn't talk about this too much, and I don't want to belittle it, but I had a Brady's father for several years. It was mostly positive. It turned very negative because eventually, I started off kind of telling him, because he's raised Catholic. Brady's father's Catholic, raised in Catholic. And I had to tell him that your grandchildren are not being raised Catholic. Your grandchildren are being raised in idolatry and witchcraft. And you might want to check in on your son, ask him some basics. When is the last time you went to confession? When is the last time you went to communion? These types of things. Because this stuff does matter.
Let us make a pause here. Regarding, religious beliefs, do you believe that she's really influencing his career with her powers? Do you
she has clearly made all of his decisions, and these are other stories about this. There are stories about her dragging him into the owner, Robert Kraft's house, in front of the coach and screaming and yelling and essentially demanding to be traded. He's missed training camp. He's missed OTAs twice. And then this year missed it, and then some extended time. And it's come out, as I knew both times ahead of times, because of some drama with her. She takes him around to these clinics, and she's got him in this whole big Hollywood thing. And this is not at all who this young man started out as. This was a good, humble young man. And that was what made him work in that team and work inside of the coach's system. But the coach who created that system, who created the Patriot Way, one of the things that he does, and this is something, we talked about this earlier, we talked about John McCain, we talked about integrity. And this is a key word for me with guys, with men, is, are you willing to take the good with the bad? And Bill Belichick is a guy who does not care what the press says about him. And as a result of that, they say a lot of nasty things about him. But he doesn't care, because that's not something that a man who's running a football team needs to be concerned with. So he sort of always put this barrier up around the team, protecting the integrity of the locker room, which I will tell you, we talk about respect. For men, it's very important that we have our space in the locker room. And he sort of served as a bit of a shield, because he instilled a certain structure around Tom Brady. And it was for this reason that Giselle really wanted to separate him from that. So she really targeted that relationship, and they were doing subtle things along with the trainer to create friction for many years until they ultimately dragged him out. And then that's the part where, again, if he chooses to leave, that's his choice, not the choice I would have made. But they also simultaneously planted media narratives to say that the coach pushed him out. And that just was factually not true. He had it written into his final contract that he couldn't be franchise tagged, which in the NFL means that if you're willing to pay what the top 5 players in that position make, you can retain a player no matter what. So they put that in place specifically so that he couldn't be retained. The owner told him, how much money, what do you want? So we offered him everything. That was a decision that she chose for him, and he followed that because he does what she says. And ultimately, he's accountable for that. And her witchcraft, and by the way, witchcraft does have an impact. This is where this stuff, and she's been, I'm sure.
It exists.
Oh, it absolutely. Black magic, witchcraft, these things have a very powerful influence, and they do actually have a powerful impact. And her witchcraft, and I don't know if you know this, but he went to Tampa Bay and won the Super Bowl that first year. It's not hard to see the fingerprints of that sort of black magic sorcery on a number of things, the way that season played out. I'm sure that she's been putting negative hexes on the Patriot team. We're going kind of in a weird conversation, but witchcraft does exist, and it does have a power, but it does not have more power than Father God. So ultimately, Father God gets the last say.
White magic. Do you believe in white magic?
Well, this is what she refers to herself as a good witch, that she practices white magic. Yeah, it's the same thing. But to me, white magic, black, it is sorcery. So if you take, and this is where I've got to be kind of masculine, I've got to be kind of a guy here. I know women, it gets a little bit more, and there's a little bit of, your world, my world, but it's very important that structurally we assert the reality. And as a man, things for me are very binary. And the Bible for me is very clear. You're either with Father God or it's idolatry and sorcery. So any sort of witchcraft falls under, go smash that to pieces, right? So yeah, this is, in her mind, this is good witchcraft, but witchcraft. So she is practicing witchcraft. That's open. And in her mind, it's a positive thing. It's not a positive thing in my mind. And it's been deeply destructive spiritually. It's invoked generational curses on that family that the children are going to be dealing with. And Tom is dealing with some things that, again, it may even, you can actually, the black magic stuff, you can go through your entire life and just have this perfect life. It can go, but ultimately God gets the final say. And this is where you've got to be careful with this stuff. And there's always a blurring of the lines because there's a lot of things on this. And you know this from the conversation, if you watched it all, we talked about some of these things. There are different topics and they do start trending you in that direction. For me, as a guy, I do have a responsibility to present and articulate specifically to women and children the binary view of reality, which is that we've got a Father God, he loves us, and he's got a son that died for us. And to receive the blessings, we have to acknowledge and receive that. And that's the process that a Catholic man should be installing in his son. So this is what Tom Brady Sr. installed in his son. These are the reasons, really, the main things that made him successful is that he has this Catholic upbringing, which was how he was brought up. And this, in order to be passed on to the next generation, it has to be repeated. And this is what happens when there's a chink in the armor, something comes in. So somewhere around that house, and Brady was a nice guy, and I think the flaw there was perhaps a little bit naive. And sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes all it takes is to be a little bit naive, to have a blind spot, and you let something come into your household, and before you know it, it's running everything. And this is a great example of it. This is a story that I've been telling people about unofficially for 5 to 10 years. Now you're beginning to see things that are coming out, and I have a certain feeling about where this is going, but it's important to put it out, if for no other reason than to stand up for the people that really did build him and make his career what it was, and to protect their reputation, because there's been a very vicious, underhanded.
I'm gonna interrupt you here for a bit, but
yeah, don't get me talking about football. We'll be here all night.
Well, it's the same thing when I talk about RoboCop and films and everything that I like. What do you think of the Illuminati? Do you really think they control Hollywood? Do you really think they exist? Because there has been a lot of talk about it, and my ex-love partner, if he's watching, said right now we're good friends. He's British. For a while, he was like, super focused on this topic. And well, sometimes there are things that I do believe, and some others I go like, really, is that what is really happening? And there was an episode of The Simpsons in which there was this sort of satire of this Illuminati sort of
Freemasons.
They were like quite strong in the beginning of the 2000s. So
well, this is a complicated topic. I don't know how much time we're going to have for this, but yes, the occult has a
still. So
yeah. This is a very serious topic, and we're getting really to the crux of the problems here, because the occult does have an influence on Hollywood, and I've spent a fair amount of time there. And when you're in Hollywood, you are in a different world. When you're in there, as soon as you're in there, all of this weird, you just get brought into and then you leave Los Angeles, and it's like, it's back to reality. But you will find that, yes, and this is what I talk about. This is why I talk specifically about not just letting the culture go, not just allowing anything to be put on the TVs, because this is brainwashing technology. I mean, when our CIA brainwashes people, this is what they do.
You believe
they put
that it's like an underground group that controls.
Well, yeah, Ava. I mean, I'm trying to explain it. It's a large topic, but yes, there has been, and this is not a new phenomenon, and the Illuminati is a term that we associate with it. But through history, there have been these two parallel lines, and even going all the way back to the Old Testament, this is kind of the cult of the golden calf, right? That there's always been this rebellion on the side against God. And what it's about is that, that tribe has a connection. Mm-hmm. You're leaving me? Okay. I'll just keep going.
Being more comfortable.
You get as comfortable.
I wanted to air, but
Good.
This is a studio that is next to a venue where they celebrate events and everything. So some people from the staff.
What? Well, I'm in my high-rise condo. So my neighbors are probably all listening right now, and they're like, "Oh, my crazy neighbor who's running for president again." And so I hear you on that. But there has always been this parallel to receiving from God, an attempt to actually master the powers of God. And when you look into like the occultic texts, when you get deep into this, it goes through, they have a totally parallel timeline that goes through Atlantis and all of these things, and the actual use of language to create things, the powerful use of language. So there has been this attempt to, this is the key thing, is that do we separate from God? Do we do we bow before God and receive from him? Or do we try and be like God? And that's the question between being an obedient son of God and being Lucifer. And so when you get to the side of I'm one with the universe, so all of these things, psychoactive drugs, all of these different things, they all lead in that direction. And it's against what we're supposed to be doing, which is, again, receiving from God. When we open ourselves up and we try and just take the whole thing on, we're not fit to do that because we have a mortal body. We have a corrupted body, and it ultimately destroys us, and it ultimately brings evil into the world. However, that being said, it is a way of becoming more powerful. So it does sort of equate to selling your soul. So when people that go into Hollywood, it is a selling of the soul because they are allowing themselves to be vessels for demonic forces. And this is, if you look actually at the music industry, the music videos, these are essentially ancient Babylonian rituals that we're watching in front of us. And it's loosing demons into the homes. And the people that put themselves up, they say, okay, make me famous, and I'll be the one that goes on stage and I'll channel everything in. So we have a group of people, and then they have a tremendous amount of power, and the culture really controls everything. We talked about manufactured consent earlier. We talk about some of the things which I won't get into on this podcast, but some of the things that when you throw a glass of water at someone's face and you say, is this okay to show this to children? Everybody knows that the answer is no. And yet everybody somehow thinks that this is not only okay, but it's positive. So this is,
I'm sorry that I interrupt you as a Mexican.
Well,
one of the things that really bothers me is that I would never do drugs for many reasons.
Good.
Respect to my parents, most of it. And well, I use my mind to work, so I don't want to fuck up, sorry for the word, my brain. And some sitcoms, I'm sorry that I'm interrupting you. Some American sitcoms believe that it's funny to show some characters like getting high or drugged. And it's like, well, it's super funny because the character is, I mean, they cannot show that they smoke anymore, but they can show that they are stoned in the show. So some comedies that I liked, if they just only knew, if Americans only knew how much the drug trafficking hurts my country, they wouldn't take it lightly. They wouldn't make jokes about it. And this is why I like fantasy TV shows. This is why I like RoboCop. RoboCop is always fighting against drugs. But I believe you don't know the extent of the problem. You know, we produce something that North America consumes. And in the meantime, that there are clients over there, there's going to be producers here of this drug. And it's not funny. If you're going to cut smoking from sitcoms, cut people getting high as well. I mean, that's my personal, I'm sharing this as a Mexican. If you're a politician, why is it funny to show someone, doing
Well,
drugs on TV when
it
there's so much blood that has been spilled in my country for
that's
that
right.
drug to go to the States? I just don't
That,
see it.
that's right. And we talked about this the last time. You asked me about Quentin Tarantino. This is a guy that has made a career about making movies, making fun of people being tortured over things like drugs and, stuff of this nature. And this is not funny. This is stuff that actually happens. And this is not a thing to become desensitized to sit back and laugh about. So you're absolutely right. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, that the culture is permeating things and making things seem okay that, are not okay. And this is where I talk about being progressive, or this is where I'm on the conservative side. A lot of the kids, they want me to tell them the pot stuff is okay and all of this. As an adult, I have to say, no, I don't think you should be doing drugs. And I'm not going to back away from that. I'm not going into people's homes and kicking the doors down to find roaches, but no, I'm not in favor of this stuff. And I think that the dispensaries have not been positive in the cities. They've brought a lot of negativity in, and absolutely agree. So this is the type of stuff, and the culture has a huge impact on this. And the people running the culture in Hollywood are pushing the messages out that are destroying the social fabric, not only of America, but of the rest of the world. So this is where, to me,
what do you think about, right now we get to know the dark side of many shows and movies that we got to see when we were kids or we were younger, and we realized that especially actresses from a young age were harassed by producers. And now Harvey Weinstein is thankfully in jail, but he's not the first or the last monster that has been doing this in the entertainment industry. What do you
no, I
think
know. And
about it?
really, what's really disturbing is that there's actually a lot of predatory stuff towards young boys as well, specifically,
Yeah.
both. And I have a lot of friends in the Hollywood scene, a lot of actors. Jeff Conaway was a close friend of mine. Corey Feldman, Corey Haim, these three guys, all three of them, close friends, all three of them were molested relentlessly as young boys. And Corey Feldman is the only one that's alive.
I think.
Corey Feldman is the only one that's alive. And
Yes.
and this speaks to, and this is an interesting thing for you and your audience to reflect upon, because a common factor that you will find about people that have tried to separate from the evils of Hollywood, like Corey Feldman, what you're going to find is that those that are still alive are deeply religious, and they are terrified to take their hand off of the Bible. Last time I saw Corey Feldman, he had armed bodyguards, and he was checking everything to come into that house to make sure that it was Christian. And this is sort of because I didn't
film Corey Feldman,
yeah,
about Corey Haim being abused by Charlie Sheen.
All of them. There is a complex in Hollywood where the young stars are brought, and it's a part where they're groomed for success, and they're put into this area. And anybody that lives in Hollywood, the police, the fire department, they will tell you that they get the strangest calls from this building all the time. Horrible things, suicides, people screaming in the middle of the night. What goes on in Hollywood is deeply disturbing. This is a matter of national security. And one of the things that I pledged on day one is to put boots on the ground in Hollywood, because my Department of Justice is going to look into these things. They need to be looked into. And you read some of the stuff, and this is a topic, there's some literature that you will weep if you read it. Okay. And I hope it's not true. I mean, I have read things that made me weep for days. And I had to go, this can't be true. This can't be true. And I hope it's not. But we have to look into some of this stuff. There is certainly enough documented to where we certainly have to look in. And then especially with the role that these people play in shaping the culture, it's hypercritical that we don't just allow these people to hide under this is capitalism. This is capitalism. This is a weapon. This is a matter of national security. And
Your camera
Talking too
is
much. Is it
uh,
back?
yeah,
My
you're
phone said
back.
said alerting me I'm at 20%. So we should be good for another 6
Actually,
hours.
we're also running out of time of part number 2. So, wow, this is like a topic we should talk about in another
Yeah,
show. Because
it's
as I have friends also in the in
mhm,
Hollywood, in the show business industry, I'm always hurting for them because I think
mhm,
it's fantastic what they do, but what they go through is not fair. So let's
mhm.
close the show with some positive thoughts. Let us know what do you do in your free time to keep yourself healthy and with a positive mind, and then some closing words for your audience, and we
Yeah.
go to have dinner.
Well, I like to play football, real football. I love to play soccer, so all sports, football, American football. That's kind of my main hobby. And other than that, I like swimming. So I like to go up to the rooftop pool and hang out. That's kind of about it. I'm not really, those are kind of my two hobbies. I like eating. I like pizza. Pizza's good. Things
Okay.
like that.
Favorite
Um,
dessert?
favorite what?
Dessert.
Favorite dessert? Well,
Ice
I
cream.
don't,
Hmm?
yeah, ice cream's good. I mean, usually if I want something sweet, I'll eat some fruit. So every day I eat a lot of fresh yogurt with raspberries. So whole fat yogurt with raspberries. So that's kind of like, my healthy ice cream. But cheesecake is very nice. I'm trying to think what else. I usually just get more food, you know. I let her order some dessert. I maybe take a forkful, whatever it is, and I just eat more food. But I'll go with pineapple for right now.
So, what's your favorite color now that you're a politician and when you dress, what's
Uh-huh.
your favorite color to dress?
Okay. Well, I have two favorite colors, red and blue. So those are two good colors. And depending on my mood, I can kind of, if I'm feeling aggressive, I go red. And if I'm being like a little bit cool or stealthy, I might go blue. And as a politician, so it's the end of the day, long day, so no tie. But usually I do like a dark blue suit with a red tie. But the funny thing is, when I'm not in a suit, I'm in like shorts and a tank top. I'm like very casual. But when I, put the suit on, that's kind of the only thing. I got my nice suits, get them dry clean, stuff like that. Black
Okay.
and white are good colors too.
Yeah, and they always look good on cameras because from this point on you have to get used to being in front of cameras. Do you have any plans to go on future podcasts before we go? We're running out of.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go back on the Kimberly Cloud show tomorrow. We're going to do a bunch of shows. I know I've got some others, and I'm waiting on some good ones to come out. What I'm doing right now is I want to just talk to normal people, not necessarily big audiences, just start a conversation. And then we're going to try and get onto kind of shows that are drawing a little bit more attention, but not on that political strain. We're going to get to the political stuff. I see that. I know what that means. So
four,
that means, all
four
right.
minutes
Oh, okay.
before
Well, okay, four
before
minutes.
Zoom kicks us out. But
That
go
that
on.
should that should be enough time for me to make some closing statements. But yeah, we just want normal conversation. The political stuff is kind of it's noise. It's two sides talking against each other. And going back to where we started, the conservative side, which is where I would be going media wise, they actually don't really want new ideas. They want to talk like they are doing something new, but they want the same old tired ideas. How do we get fresher? How do we get younger? Well, I don't know. You could talk to me. No, they don't want that. They want to talk about Trump. They want to talk about continuing with whatever they're doing. So we're just going to talk to people, and I get asked about social media, and they say, Trump did everything with social media. Why aren't you doing social media? Well, because that was how he did it. This is now something new. And what I'm going to do this time, that was the revolutionary thing in 2016, was I'm going to tweet every 15 seconds and offend half the people on the planet. What I'm going to do, new idea, I'm just going to talk to normal people. That's my strategy. I'm going to talk to people and we're going to have good conversations. We're going to present ideas that I think most people actually want, at least enough to form a majority coalition. And we're going to go that way. So that's kind of what I'm doing. That's where I'm looking the next 30 to 60 days to get enough of a campfire going with this thing. Then I start saying, okay, let's bring in some lights, let's bring in some cameras, let's get serious. Let's, start throwing some money at this thing. For now, it's just having fun. It's just having conversation. It's just putting the ideas out and seeing that people like yourself have a positive response to it. So yeah, it's very nice. And really, and again, so you're just the host, but it's just nice to see you. So always a good time here.
It's always a good time, Daryl. Thank you so much for attending Greenlight podcast for a third time. We hope you come back to us anytime soon. So
Yeah.
happy birthday to my associate producer, Memo Gutierrez, Guillermo. Without him, this show wouldn't be possible. We wish we could send you a slice of cake, through the distance. Also, please send my regards to Corey Feldman. I was a big fan of his when I was a kid. And well, Daryl, I hope you have an excellent end of the week and wish you the best of luck in your next interviews.
And I do want to say I don't talk to Corey regularly now, so I don't want to misrepresent that. But he was someone that a few years ago we did associate with. But